From KAMR Local 4 News, your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today with Jackie Kingston.
We get an exclusive look at how many veterans are off the streets since January. That new information from the city of Amarillo. And a new required cybersecurity assessment for each Texas county. How the first line of defense against election interference is the county elections administrator. Hi there, welcome to Politics Today on a surprisingly busy week. First today, a second point-in-time count was taken 2 weeks ago here in Amarillo, gathering data about the homeless population here in our city. While the official numbers are not yet out, Politics Today's Maggie Glenn explains some of the standouts from the first pit count earlier this year and how the homeless veteran population, in particular, has gone down since then.
HUD only requires the city to perform one point-in-time count a year, but the city is trying to build its database to better understand our homeless population.
We also wanted to get a picture of, does it look different in the summertime? Do you find more people, or are people traveling and they've gone on?
Some may have gone on, but Director of Community Development Juliana Kitten explains an alarming statistic from the pit count earlier this year is in Amarillo's chronic homelessness.
Within the homeless population, 34% meet the HUD's definition of chronically homeless. And so that typically, I was expecting about 15%. And compared to other places in Texas, we're 3 times what their chronic homeless population is.
That's where the city's Coming Home program comes in, specifically serving the chronically homeless.
Originally, our goal was to serve 25 households, and so we're actually serving 33 households, and that's 49 people.
While the data for the pit count last week won't officially come in for a few weeks, Kitten says one statistic she can discuss is the homeless veteran population. In January, there were 34 veterans living on the streets. Now, that number has been cut in half.
We know the names of these veterans, and we say, okay, how do we get them into housing? What services do they need? And so at the last meeting we had before the pit count, we knew that there were 17 on the street, and so it was kind of interesting that when we did our pit count, that's what exactly matched up.
This is using new technology to keep track of each person counted. Everything is entered into the Homeless Management Information System, which is also used by shelters and transitional housing places. Names are then put into the databases so the city can find people again, track how long they've been homeless, and organizations they may have received help from in the past. In studio, Maggie Glenn, Politics Today. Jackie.
Maggie, thank you. Kitten also says the increased number of volunteers they had last week and this past January allows them to count more people outside of just downtown. New Mexico Attorney General Hector Balderas is asking the House and Senate to address the growing dangers of PFAS contamination. It's an update to our ongoing I-Team investigation. The letter asks lawmakers to do multiple things: designate certain PFAS chemicals as hazardous substances, add the entire class of PFAS chemicals to the EPA's toxic release inventory, provide funding for remediation of PFAS-contaminated drinking water supplies, prohibit use and storage of firefighting foam containing PFAS at military bases and other federal facilities. That's a big one. And to provide medical screening of PFAS exposure for members of the public. Attorney General Balderas is among a coalition of 21 attorneys general asking for legislation to address widespread PFAS contamination. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton not among them. For a full list of our I-Team investigation regarding PFAS, go to myhighplains.com. Groups in Clovis and Tucumcari who were trying for a Racino license are not getting one, and neither is anyone else for that matter. The New Mexico Racing Commission announced Thursday that it would not approve another Racino license following months of debates and millions of dollars, frankly, spent by applicants. They say it's in the state's best interest. The panel may reopen an application process in the future for another license. The Amarillo ISD Board of Trustees had a tumultuous year, to say the least. They came under fire for alleged interactions between a board member and a former Amarillo High volleyball coach, and after that had considerable turnover in the May election, plus another resignation from the board. But they're hoping for smooth sailing after filling 2 vacancies on Tuesday during a special meeting. Kayla Mendez was appointed by a 4-to-1 vote. David Nance was appointed to fill the second vacancy unanimously. Both of them will serve out the rest of the term, which expires in May 2021. At that time, they can choose to run for re-election.
It's so refreshing. It is so refreshing to now have our team of 8, and now we can forge forward down the road to making sure that all of our students graduate for success, to be able to be successful beyond high school.
Malone says with a full board, they are ready to focus on issues like early childhood development. House Bill 18 is officially signed and set to be enacted in December. It puts in place policies that will increase mental health resources and education in public schools. And the Amarillo Independent School District is already implementing some of those requirements. The bill, in fact, originally filed by Representative Price. One of the requirements is if a school has a health class, they must start to include mental health as part of the curriculum. AISD's Director of Counseling, Tracy Moorman, tells us they already implement some of that in their Worth the Wait program and social and emotional learning. One of the first steps in providing mental health care is eliminating the stigma surrounding it.
We actually really want to reduce the stigma associated with mental health, and everybody knows, and all the research indicates, that behavioral health issues, including substance abuse, is very manageable if diagnosed early.
In fact, he says most mental health issues manifest before the age of 14, so trying to help at an early age can prevent long-term issues. The bill will also require school districts to partner with a local mental health institute if they haven't already. Amarillo ISD has partnered with Texas Panhandle Centers. Okay, a weird story that we are watching this week and will be watching out of the Texas House of Representatives, which, yes, no, is not in session right now. It has to do with the group Empower Texans, which we've spoken about several times on this program, mostly when they backed candidates who ran against incumbents Senator Kel Seliger, Representative Price, and others. They are a political action committee, which also is registered as Texans for Fiscal Responsibility PAC. On their website, they say they educate and inspire Texans to exercise effective citizenship using research, reporting, and advocacy. They say they empower taxpayers to advocate for good governance and hold their elected officials accountable. In short, they spend a lot of money pushing for ultra-conservative candidates with varying degrees of success. So the man at the helm is a guy by the name of Michael Quinn Sullivan. He sometimes is referred to as MQS. So Sullivan claimed last week that he had a recording of a meeting between himself and Speaker Dennis Bonnen, where he says Bonnen offered Empower Texans media credentials for the House floor. That's something that usually only accredited news outlets get, in exchange for Bonnen and Lubbock Representative Justin Burrows publicly targeting 10 House members. So after this comes out, that MQS guy allegedly has this list. Speaker Bonnen calls his bluff. He releases this statement: Mr. Sullivan, release your recording, release it in its entirety. Okay, so then certain representatives say they listened to the recording on Wednesday night and corroborate that, yes, it's a meeting between Bonnen and MQS, and yes, there is a list. Here's what former Representative Steve Toth said in a statement. Clearly, a list was referenced over and over and over again. He goes on, honestly, I was caught off guard, and says, I have been a supporter of the Speaker since day one. I love Dennis. I didn't believe any of this. I am shocked. I am discouraged to see the light it put him in and the light it put on the Republican Party. The other person who listened to it, who's allegedly on that list, is Nacogdoches Representative Travis Clardy. He told the Dallas Morning News that what he heard is, quote, consistent with what Sullivan alleged. Bonnen, well liked by people on both sides of the aisle. He's coming off of a legislative session where it's generally agreed that he led the way in getting a lot done. MQS, for his part, released a statement of sorts on his website. It's a long post. There's a lot of background to it, and you should read it in full, but I'll let his words sum it up. Quote, Speaker Bonnen and Rep. Burrows must recant their false claims, all of them, immediately. If they do not, I believe I will be obligated to release the recording in whole or in part. I haven't decided yet, so as to set straight the record that they have tried to contort. In the meantime, I will do this. Republican legislators, party officials, and conservative movement leaders who may feel that they are impacted by the recording are welcome to contact my office, and we will make arrangements for them to listen to the audio in the presence of my lawyer. So we will see what the implications are for this election season and the next legislative session, and if the recording is released, we'll let you know. Hundreds of election officials, including Malin Huntley from Potter County in Austin last week, training with the Texas Secretary of State's office. Their focus was election security. And one big change coming out of the Capitol this year is new required cybersecurity assessments for each county's election systems to identify weaknesses. State elections officials were there answering questions. The Department of Homeland Security gave presentations yesterday, earlier this week, running through different scenarios that may come up.
We want every vote counted, like it should be, and that's why we all come together to try to get as much information as we can to make sure that happens.
We want to make sure that all of our counties, regardless of the support that they have locally, are given some basic security tools to make sure that at a minimum we're kind of elevating the whole state.
The state received a $24 million federal grant last year for infrastructure and cybersecurity upgrades. Here's something to mark on your calendar and maybe to weigh in on too. Nexstar Media Group is hosting a town hall with Texas Governor Greg Abbott. The town hall event will open with a 10-minute question and answer session between the governor and the moderators. That will be followed by about 50 minutes of questions from the live local audience. It airs on August 15th right here on KAMR Local 4 from 7 until 8. We'll also be streaming the town hall live with other coverage over on our website. For more information on how you can watch or submit your own questions, go to myhighplains.com. With CBD and hemp products now legal in Texas, law enforcement is having to adapt. Coming up, we'll see how prosecutors are working to tell the difference between hemp and illegal marijuana. I'm Jackie Kingston. You're watching Politics Today from your local election headquarters. As of June 10th, hemp and CBD products are legal in Texas thanks to House Bill 1325. That bill distinguishes hemp from marijuana based on THC concentration. But as Politics Today's Kaylee Green reports, marijuana and hemp are derived from the same plant. They look, they smell similar, and to tell them apart, lab tests are required. But Randall County DA Robert Love says the infrastructure to do them isn't there.
HB 1325 aligned Texas law with federal law, decriminalizing hemp and hemp products at or below 0.3% THC. But it will take time to put in place infrastructure so that law enforcement can determine the difference between hemp and marijuana.
If you're using it out in public and law enforcement sees you with it and it smells like marijuana, as you pointed out, it looks like marijuana, it smells like marijuana, you could be put in jeopardy of facing criminal charges.
In fact, some Texas district and county attorneys have claimed they wouldn't prosecute misdemeanor marijuana possession cases without lab testing. In response, Governor Greg Abbott and other state leaders sent a letter to prosecutors. It reads in part, "Marijuana has not been decriminalized in Texas, and these actions demonstrate a misunderstanding of how HB 1325 works." It goes on to say, failing to enforce marijuana laws cannot be blamed on legislation that did not decriminalize marijuana in Texas. Randall County DA Robert Love says those statements don't characterize his office.
We're not changing the way we're prosecuting. We're going to prosecute illegal marijuana cases just like we have in the past. From a practical standpoint, we may be doing it differently because we have to do a test, whereas prior to June 10th, we didn't.
And running that test will take some time.
We're talking a few months down the road before DPS is going to have the ability to quantitatively test a substance that is believed to be marijuana to determine what the concentration of THC is, because 0.3 and below is now legal.
State leaders say lab testing is not required in every case and is more affordable than previously thought.
You can't go into the courtroom without a test because the defense attorney is going to say, hey, is this 0.3 or less legal hemp, or is this 0.3 or greater illegal marijuana? And I can't honestly answer that.
Love says he thinks law enforcement will still use some circumstantial evidence, so substances will be collected, safe for testing, and a warrant will be issued later if it's determined to be higher than 0.3% THC concentration. In studio, Kaylee Green, Politics Today.
The letter also details how a person must have a certificate to transport hemp, which the state admits it has yet to produce, making it a crime to transport hemp or to have a false certificate. Some farms are asking for help because of the tariff war with China are getting more money than others. Coming up, the latest on the trade war and how farmers are eligible for more help. With a new round of farmer relief payments coming out at the end of this month, the Trump administration is making big changes to make sure everyone gets their fair share. Several reports show big farms scooped up the majority of the aid designed for farmers hit hardest during the trade war. Politics Today's Washington correspondent Raquel Martin reports.
By design, it is responsive to the amount of impact that folks have.
The Department of Agriculture pays money to help farmers caught in the thick of an escalating trade war with China. but there's evidence some farms might be getting more than others.
It's hard to get the numbers just right between counties. It's hard to get the numbers right between commodities.
Reports showed during the last round of payments, big farms won big, scoring payouts as high as $2.8 million, with the top 10% taking more than half of the $8 billion paid so far. But Bill Northey, the USDA undersecretary, says the next round will be different.
We have great restrictions on making sure that only those that qualify for this, based on their production, based on their historical acres, will be able to participate.
Under the new rules, farmers earning an average of $900,000 a year won't be eligible for aid, and no individual can receive more than $500,000. Still, some critics argue the changes won't close the gap between small farms and big farms.
There are some other changes going on that I think really kind of exacerbate and create even further problems.
Rob LaRue with the National Farmers Union says the new rules could give big farmers even bigger payouts because it's based on acres instead of production.
The super large farms are ultimately going to be okay. They're going to be able to get help, but they don't support these rural communities.
USDA says anyone caught trying to abuse the system will face consequences. Right now, it's accepting applications for this year's package. In Washington, Raquel Martin.
The first payments come out at the end of the month. The House will have one less Republican incumbent running for Congress next year after Will Hurd announced he won't run again. But that House will have a little bit of breathing room when it comes to the budget. Coming up, an update on what passed in the federal budget and how the president plans to react. Two more nights of Democratic debates last week in Detroit. 10 candidates gathered on stage the first night to talk about their policies and stances on a variety of issues. Among those candidates, frontrunners Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. 10 candidates on the second night, too, which was much more active, with candidates like former Vice President Joe Biden and Senators Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard drew attention by going after Harris's work as a prosecutor. She did well enough to become the top searched candidate on Google during the debate. Andrew Yang got the most Twitter followers out of it. The next debate coming up in September, only like 7-8 of those candidates have qualified for that so far. Also, we have a budget. The Senate voted last Thursday to pass a 2-year budget worth $1.37 trillion in year one. The package staves off the looming threat of a default on U.S. debt and prevents military funding cuts by suspending the debt limit through July 2021. Congressional leaders negotiated the bipartisan compromise deal with the Trump administration. Republicans worry that the $632 billion it allocates for non-defense spending for fiscal year 2020 is too high and could hurt election campaigns based on spending cuts. But the $738 billion it provides for defense is popular among the GOP's base. President Trump pushed for the deal, noting it eliminates the threat of financial disaster through the election season. The measure now heads to the president's desk to sign. A new round of tariffs on Chinese imports forced a massive swing in the markets last Thursday. The market was up over 300 points before President Trump tweeted about the additional 10% he's imposing. That's on top of the 25% in tariffs already in place. Prices on electronics, toys, and clothes could soon spike. If the new tariffs President Trump is threatening to hit China with go into effect on September 1st. They do go into effect on September 1st. Another shakeup that has far-reaching implications long into 2020 and 2022 as well. Republican Congressman Will Hurd of Texas announced Thursday he's not going to run for re-election. Hurd represents one of the most competitive districts in the nation. The former CIA agent tweeted that he wants to pursue opportunities outside of Congress to, quote, solve problems at the nexus between technology and national security. Hurd is the only African-American GOP House member. He's also been a frequent critic of President Trump, opposing the border wall and condemning some of Trump's more controversial rhetoric. He also took a road trip with Beto O'Rourke last year. You might remember that. Hurd said he will remain active in politics and continue to work toward diversification in the Republican Party. The Year of Return is a project in Ghana to encourage people who were driven from their homelands, diaspora, to come visit. Coming up next here on Politics Today, a couple of interesting people did. We'll explain in this hour. One last thing before we go. We reported a few weeks ago about crowds at a recent President Trump campaign rally that United States Congresswoman Ilhan Omar should be, quote, to quote the crowds exactly, in fact, send her back. Representative Omar, of course, fled her native Somalia in light of a civil war. She spent years in a refugee camp before immigrating legally, because we have to say that now, here to the United States. Her citizenship is not conditional. She is just as much a citizen as you or I. Anyway, I digress. This happened this week. Representative Omar tweeting these photos with the caption, quote, "They said send her back, but Speaker Pelosi didn't just make arrangements to send me back. She went back with me." She goes on to say, "So grateful for the honor to return to Mother Africa with the Black Caucus and commemorate the year of return." Follow along with us this week on social media. Thank you very much for spending part of your Sunday with us. We hope to see you back here, same place, same time, next week.